Good morning from Barcelona, where IAFOR is holding our annual conference on education in arts, media and culture. Next to me today are standing Professor Carlos Scolari and Professor Paula Casal. Could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
So my name is Paula Casal. I am an ICREA professor at the Law Department at Pompeu Fabra University. I teach ethics and political philosophy, and I specialize in distributive justice.
My name is Carlos Scolari. I'm professor in the Department of Communication in Pompeu Fabra University. My research area is in transmedia literacy and media ecology and media evolution, the transformation of the media ecosystems.
And today you had a panel discussion on a very timely topic. Could you tell us what it was about?
In this panel, we talk about artificial intelligence, creativity, education. Our panel arrived after a great keynote. Professor Carlos from the Carlos III University from Madrid. He presented a general overview of artificial intelligence. So we went, starting from that big picture, we went deeper on a couple of things like creativity, the relationship of creativity and artificial intelligences. We also talk about education, how young people and students are using artificial intelligences, especially ChatGPT. We try to open different windows. There are not so many answers in this moment, but we try to generate new questions, opening new windows.
We discuss a lot of the problems and possible solutions, but also all the potential that ChatGPT, Mistral, and so on have for education, and how it's already changing the teaching.
The good thing of the panel is that we didn't have an apocalyptic view that now is very, very popular. I think all the people of the panel, we have a critical approach. We agree that we must introduce these technologies with a critical approach, but we are not apocalyptic about AI.
I was going to ask you right now, with the rapid evolution of AI, there's a lot of talk about this apocalyptic scenario, the end of humanity, the end of creativity, whatever. And a lot of people separate themselves into in the camp of techno doom. Some very few people into techno euphoria. Which of the camps do you fall in?
Yeah, I think if you think in the early 60s, Umberto Eco, he introduced this contradiction about apocalyptic and integrated, he says in Italian. And I think it's very difficult to go beyond that, because to think in apocalyptic terms maybe it's easier right now, because we come, as I said in the panel, we come from a 20th century experience of watching movies and reading books about the AI that want to kill the Homo sapiens, the Matrix and Skynet in Terminator. So we have to go beyond that. I think that the answer is to be critical. That's another concept to be discussed also. But both positions at the end, they are not useful.
Now that you mention Umberto Eco, I am reminded of a story when he wrote a book, a chapter in a book called How Children Harm TV. Everybody was talking about how the arrival of TV was going to create these robot children that only watch TV and replicate what they see and so on. So he wrote How Children Harm TV. So he explained the sort of things that a generation watch in Italy, religious services, a lot of things. And then he says, and this was the generation of May 68, And so he says, people and just mirrors that reflect, they do their own thing. And I think, especially with the best students, that's what I'm saying, that they're just using it and, to express their own individuality and their own critical ideas and so on. But in philosophy, you also see another trend, now that you mentioned the doom, is that, of course, philosophy is a minority field. So, when we get, 500 citations, we're excited because the field is so small that this is like a miracle. No? But there are some philosophers that write for the whole public, and there's a tendency for these people to talk about the end of the world, nuclear war, cyborgs, these things. These are also the people who use a lot of ChatGPT and so on, and who are aware of the fact that they are writing, or they want to be writing, for the future. So they know how to place things, where to place their papers and so on, so that they're going to be picked up by the large language models, so that the people of the future are going to be citing them, are going to be discussing their views and so on. And so that is just, not sure if it's worrying, but it's something to think about, that there is some people who just carry on doing philosophy the old style, writing their book or their paper in an obscure journal that a few of us enthusiastically celebrate, but it doesn't reach the wider society. And other people who do this more commercial. And of course, to be commercial, you want to be exaggerating and frightening and so on. And these are the people who are more high-tech and who know where to place things so that they are read by the wider public. So, it would be better if things were a bit more balanced. Yeah.
I think the economic dimension obviously is important in any kind of technological field, but it's not the only one. If you see what happened, first we talk about television. If you analyze television in the 60s in the USA, it was very important media, it was a business, the three big chains. But you can't reduce television in the 60s only to the three big companies controlling television. Television changed the life of people, changed politics and many other things. And that's for any other technology. So now the economic dimension is obvious in this field, but there are so many processes and things going on that go beyond and are not controlled by the logic of economy.
We talked a little bit about this on the panel, but AI and creativity. Can AI be creative, and is it going to inhibit human creativity?
There are many discussions. As I said in the panel, one of the collateral effects of these technologies is that we are constrained to discuss different concepts. What's intelligence and what's creativity is another concept that is under discussion right now. I am not an expert in creativity in the sense that maybe from philosophy she has a lot to say about that. But I think what I found very, very interesting is not when you use AI for creating something new, but exploiting the mistakes of AI from a creative point of view. The famous hallucinations and so on. I think there's a potential of creativity there that artists, they are looking for that. Not for the good thing, for the wrong outcomes of the machine, the ghost in the machine, let's say. As I say to my students, I think it's very important to have humans in the beginning and at the end of the process when we use artificial intelligence. If we have human people in the beginning and at the end, I think we can be positive about the future of these technologies. And that's connected to creativity. The final word, the final point should be made by humans.
For me, I use the artificial intelligence to improve on my PowerPoints, which I have always made with images, things that are emotionally impactful, shocking, funny, and now I can do that better. And for them, since I want them to do something that is about their passion and something to do with their biography or something that expresses them and concerns them, the fact that they have ChatGPT improves massively the possibility of people doing it. A lot of the other students are very reluctant to go this way and write something about their passion because they don't have a starting point. And now I say, well, ask ChatGPT, ask Mistral, whether it is possible. And then, they come up with a paper on this and a paper that outside our own field sometimes, but there's enough there so that they can work on it. While in the past, it would have been more overwhelming, to be the first person to write a paper on this topic, exploring new areas where there is an ethical dilemma, that's what we call creative, So raising issues that people haven't raised before and so on. And if you have this ChatGPT to bounce your ideas and your questions, it can make it less intimidating and, make an easier start.
Are there any areas or other things connected to AI that we're not focusing on, but we should be?
I think we are talking about a lot about the big companies, the big corporations, and I think we should hear more how people and understand how people is using AI. That's part of our project right now. When we were looking for good research questions, is okay. let's see how teenagers are using AI. And our approach in that sense that we have applied in previous projects is that we do not interpolate these young people as victims of technologies. We have to forget that. That's the traditional vision of media literacy that was born with television. Poor children, they are watching television, forget that. They are dealing with different problems like adults do. So I think to hear these voices and to analyze how they are using, the appropriation process of the technology, I think we should focus more on that than maybe in the last model or what Elon Musk or Sam Altman said about AI.
Well, I am concerned with equality, and while this morning I was talking about more the positive sides of how potentially, you have a tutor that is extremely knowledgeable and patient and free and can be there with you all the hours of the day, even telling you great questions and all these things that in the past, between having parents that are similar to that and not having them, would make a huge difference to the children, not just at school, but for the rest of their lives. And now this has the potential to eliminate or at least erode many of these inequalities. What about other people, like people who are unskilled workers, immigrants in here? They don't use it very much. Why not? Why? Somebody, a friend of mine who sort of cleans the stairs and so on, but why don't you use this great? Oh, I don't know. It's like some people seem to think that they're not important enough to be using this. I said, no, of course you are. You should be using it for everything. Even like we talked about before, the most menial things. This is what is on the fridge. What can I make? For anything, medical questions, psychology. Women apparently use it more for questioning of personal, what shall I do, or I feel like this was the best solution, and so on, more than men. But then, what about people in developing countries? Almost everyone now, like the Maasai, they have intelligent phones where they can have ChatGPT and ask for that. Why is this not happening? Because the potential for all of these people to know so many things is huge. And we should be finding out, why is this not happening? Why are these people not daring to, many people just think they're not important, or it's not for them, or it is for the professionals, and they are like, there with their cows or whatever. No, ask them questions about, you see the cow has these symptoms. What could be happening? Like everything. I think we should be looking into why is this not having the potential for eliminating equality that it could have, as well as, of course, ways in which it can increase inequalities, not replacing people with jobs that ChatGPT can now do, reinforcing racial, gender stereotypes in the answers that it gives you, and so on.
Thank you so much. It was a very interesting panel, very interesting perspectives from both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.